You'll babysit Charlotte's children. We are going on the family trip. That was the first full sentence my mother said after I had crossed the country, dragged my suitcase through 2 airports, and taken a 5-hour flight because she had begged me to come home for Christmas. My name is Chloe Bennett. I'm 29 years old and I work as a disaster relief logistics coordinator in Portland, Oregon, which means my entire job is built around emergencies, impossible schedules, and people needing me when everything falls apart. So when my mother kept calling in December saying, "Chloe, please come this year. It won't feel like Christmas without you," I believed her. I thought maybe my family finally wanted me there as a daughter, not as the person who fixed problems. I used vacation days I had been saving for months. I paid extra for a holiday flight. I packed sweaters, gifts, and a stupid little silver ornament I had bought because I wanted one peaceful memory with them. But when the door of the rented lake house near Asheville opened, my mother didn't hug me. She stepped aside, pointed toward the living room where my sister's kids were already coughing, sticky-faced, and fighting over a tablet, then said, "Good, you made it. You'll stay with Evan and Mia tonight. The rest of us are leaving for the Christmas Lights tour in 20 minutes. I laughed because I thought she was joking. Then my brother Daniel came around the corner, smirking, and said, "Don't wipe your snot on her, kids. Aunt Chloe just got here." Everyone laughed except me. My suitcase was still in my hand, my coat was still wet from the freezing rain, and in that exact second I understood the truth. They hadn't begged me to come home. They had scheduled me. Before I tell you the part that changed everything, drop your location and the weather where you are right now. I want to know how far this story travels tonight, and whether it's cold where you are too. For a few seconds, I just stood there with my hand wrapped around the suitcase handle, waiting for someone to say, "We're kidding, Chloe." Nobody did. My father, Robert Bennett, was by the fireplace checking the tickets on his phone. My sister, Charlotte Hayes, was stuffing lipstick and hand warmers into a small purse like she was rushing to a date night, not abandoning 2 children on the sister who had just landed. My mother, Linda Bennett, walked past me and lifted Mia's pink backpack from the couch. "There are snacks in here, but don't give her the chocolate ones after 7 because she gets wild. Evan has a cough, but it's probably nothing. Charlotte left the thermometer somewhere. Oh, and the Wi-Fi password is on the fridge." She said all of it fast, like she was giving instructions to hotel staff. I looked at Charlotte and said, "You knew about this?" She smiled too brightly. "We thought it would be easier. You're so good with them. And you said you wanted family time." Daniel snorted. "This is family time. Just smaller people." The children were not the problem. Evan was 6, Mia was 4, and they were innocent in a room full of adults who had made a selfish plan. The problem was that I had not been asked. I had been assigned. I took off my coat slowly, and while I did, I remembered other Christmases in quick, ugly flashes. The year I missed my own office party because Charlotte needed one quick favor that turned into an overnight babysitting shift. The year Daniel forgot to pick up our parents from the airport, and I had to leave a client dinner to do it. The year my mother told relatives I loved helping before I had even arrived. Every memory sounded like the same door closing. I set my suitcase upright and asked, "Where exactly are you all going?" Dad answered without looking up. "Biltmore candlelight tour, dinner reservation after, maybe drinks at the hotel lounge if we're not too tired." I stared at him. "And I'm not included?" Mom finally turned, annoyed that I was slowing down their departure. "Chloe, don't start. You live across the country. You don't understand how hard Charlotte has had it. She deserves one nice evening." "And I don't?" I asked. The room went quiet, but not with guilt. With irritation. Charlotte sighed. "It's just one night." That phrase hit me harder than an insult because it had been used to steal years from me in tiny pieces. Just one night. Just one favor. Just one holiday. Just one sacrifice from Chloe, because Chloe always recovered. Mia tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Aunt Chloe, are you mad?" I knelt down and forced my voice to stay gentle. "Not at you, sweetheart." Then Daniel leaned against the wall and said, "Careful, kids. Aunt Chloe gets dramatic when she has to share Christmas." My mother laughed under her breath. My father shook his head like I was embarrassing him. Something inside me went very still. I had spent my career building evacuation plans, supply routes, backup systems, and emergency exits for people in crisis. But somehow, I had never built one for myself. So while they rushed around me, pulling on coats and pretending my silence meant obedience, I opened my phone. I checked the booking app. I searched nearby hotels. I saw one room left at a small inn 15 minutes away. I did not book it yet. I just left the screen open, glowing in my palm like a door. If you were standing there after a 5-hour flight and your family treated you like unpaid childcare, would you stay quiet to keep Christmas peaceful? Or would you finally ruin the peace that was built on using you? They left anyway. That was the part that still shocks me when I replay it. Not one person paused long enough to ask if I was okay. Mom kissed Evan and Mia on the forehead. Charlotte told me bedtime was flexible, but not too flexible. Dad reminded me not to touch the thermostat because the rental company charged extra for weird changes. And Daniel gave me a lazy salute from the doorway. Then they walked out laughing into the freezing Christmas evening, leaving me in a strange house with 2 children, 3 half-open snack bags, a sink full of dishes, and the sound of tires crunching down the gravel drive. For the first hour, I did what I always did. I handled it. Evan's cough got worse when he ran too much, so I made him warm honey water. Mia cried because her mother forgot her stuffed bunny in the car, so I turned one of my soft scarves into a travel bunny and tied little ears into the fabric. They wanted cookies, but there were no eggs, so we made cinnamon toast and called it snowman bread. I kept them safe. I kept them entertained. I kept the house from falling apart because that was what everyone trusted me to do. But every small task sharpened my anger. When Evan knocked over a cup of juice, I wiped it up and remembered Daniel once saying I was naturally responsible, like responsibility was a genetic defect. When Mia sneezed into my sweater and apologized, I hugged her and remembered my brother's joke at the door. When I opened the fridge and saw a bottle of champagne chilling beside labeled containers of food for the adults, I almost laughed. They had planned comfort for themselves down to the last detail. For me, they had planned labor. Around 8:30, Charlotte texted, "Kids asleep yet? We may stay out later." Mom followed with, "Don't let them wait up. We're having such a magical time." Then Daniel sent a photo of himself holding a drink under thousands of Christmas lights with the caption, "Babysitter of the Year. Thanks, sis." I stared at that message for a long time, not because it hurt, because it clarified everything. I took screenshots. Then I photographed the note Charlotte had left on the counter. Mia's pull-ups are in the downstairs bathroom. Evan's cough medicine is in my blue bag. Don't let them have screens after 9. It was not a request. It was proof. At 9, the children were asleep on the couch under a plaid blanket, both breathing softly, Mia still clutching my scarf bunny. I sat across from them and booked the room at the inn. Then I called the front desk and asked if they had a quiet room away from the road. The woman said yes. I thanked her and made one more call, this time to the babysitting service listed in the rental house welcome binder. I explained calmly that 2 children needed supervised care until their parents returned. The emergency holiday rate was outrageous. I gave Charlotte's number as the parent contact and my card only as a temporary hold, because unlike my family, I was not going to leave children unsafe just to make a point. But I was also not going to remain the point. When the sitter arrived 40 minutes later, I showed her where everything was, introduced her gently to the sleeping kids in case they woke up, and wrote Charlotte's number on the counter in thick black marker. Then I placed my own note beside it. I came as family, not staff. Your children are safe. The sitter is here. The bill is yours. I'm leaving. I zipped my suitcase slowly, quietly, with a strange calm moving through my chest. For the first time in years, I was not waiting for permission to stop being useful. I had just stepped into the cold when my phone started vibrating. First Charlotte, then Mom, then Dad, then Daniel. I ignored all of them until I was sitting in the ride share, watching the lake house shrink behind the fogged window. The driver glanced at me in the mirror, probably because the phone would not stop buzzing against my palm, but he said nothing. I appreciated that small mercy. Finally, I answered Charlotte on speaker. She didn't say hello. She screamed, "Where are you?" I looked out at the dark road and said, "On my way to a hotel." "You left my children?" "No," I said. "I hired a licensed sitter from the service listed in the rental binder. She is in the house. The children are asleep. They are safe." Charlotte's voice cracked into panic, but not the kind that comes from fear for her kids, the kind that comes from losing control. "Do you know what holiday rates cost?" "Yes," I said. "You're welcome to come home and relieve her." Mom grabbed the phone. "Chloe Bennett, this is cruel. We begged you to come because we needed family." I almost smiled at that. "No, Mom. You begged me to come because you needed coverage." Dad's voice came next, tight and furious. "Turn around, now." That old command used to work on me. It used to fold me in half. But that night, it hit the glass between who I had been and who I was becoming. No. One word. Clean. Final. There was silence, then Daniel barked a laugh in the background. "Wow, she really lost it." I said, "Daniel, I have your text calling me Babysitter of the Year. I also have Mom's message saying this Christmas wouldn't feel complete without me. Interesting combination, isn't it?" The laugh died. I could almost picture his face changing, the smirk slipping because he had not expected me to save anything. In our family, I was supposed to absorb, not record. Mom hissed, "Are you threatening us?" "No, I'm documenting a pattern." Charlotte started crying. "We can't leave now. Dinner was prepaid. The tour was prepaid. The kids will freak out if they wake up, and you're not there." "Then their mother should go home," I said. "That's usually how parenting works." Dad exploded. "You don't talk to your sister like that. And you don't invite your daughter across the country under false pretenses, then hand her a childcare shift at the door." My voice did not shake, and that seemed to scare them more than yelling would have. Mom lowered her voice into the soft tone she used when she wanted me guilty. "Honey, we thought you'd want to help. You don't have children. You don't understand how exhausting it is." There it was, the line beneath every favor. Because I did not have children, my time was extra. Because I was single, my holidays were flexible. Because I was dependable, my exhaustion was invisible. I remembered every time that sentence had been dressed up as praise. "Chloe is so independent. Chloe doesn't mind. Chloe can handle it." What they really meant was, "Chloe will not make us uncomfortable by saying no." "I understand exhaustion better than you think," I said. "I coordinate disaster supply chains for communities after floods, fires, and medical shortages. I spend my life making sure people have what they need, but I am done being treated like an emergency resource inside my own family." Daniel muttered, "Here comes the speech." So I gave him one. "No, here comes the statement you laughed about. I am not babysitting tonight. I am not paying the sitter beyond the first hour. I am not returning to that house to clean, cook, soothe, or pretend this was fine. I am spending Christmas Eve in a hotel room I chose, Eating dinner I chose, and tomorrow morning I am flying home unless I decide otherwise. You wanted a family trip without me. Congratulations. You have one. My brother started yelling. My father shouted over him. My mother begged me not to destroy Christmas, and Charlotte sobbed that I was humiliating her. Then Mom said the thing that made the last bit of guilt leave my body. What are we supposed to tell people when they ask where you are? I looked down at my suitcase between my knees and felt strangely peaceful. Tell them I was tired of being invited as a guest and treated like staff. No one answered. For once, the silence belonged to me. I let them talk for 10 more seconds, all of them trying to pull me back into the role they understood. Then I said, Christmas was already destroyed when you opened the door and gave me instructions instead of a hug. I ended the call. My hands were cold, but they were steady. The hotel was small, warm, and quiet in a way that felt almost unreal. There was a wreath on the front desk, a bowl of peppermints beside the card reader, and an older woman with silver hair who looked at my suitcase, my pale face, and my shaking phone and said, "Rough travel day?" I could have lied, but I was too tired. "Rough family day," I said. She nodded like she had heard that sentence 1,000 times in December and handed me a room key. "We have soup in the lounge until 10. That nearly broke me, not because soup was dramatic, but because a stranger had offered me more care in one sentence than my family had offered all night. Upstairs, I changed out of my travel clothes, washed Mia's sneeze from my sweater sleeve, and sat on the bed while my phone lit up again and again. Charlotte, the sitter says the kids woke up. Mom, please come back. Your father is furious. Dad, this is immature. Daniel, you proved you don't care about family. Then, at 10:18, a message came from an unknown number. It was the sitter. Hi, Chloe, this is Nora. Kids are okay. Their mom is on her way back. Mia asked why Aunt Chloe left. I told her you had somewhere important to be. Hope that's okay. I stared at that message until my eyes blurred. Then another came through, this time from Charlotte. Mia is crying because she thinks everyone hates you. Thanks for that. My stomach twisted, but not with regret. With recognition. Even now, Charlotte was using her child's sadness as a rope to pull me back. I typed carefully, "Tell Mia I love her and that grown-ups are responsible for their own choices. Do not put this on her." A minute later, Charlotte replied, "You sound like a therapist." I answered, "No. I sound like someone who finally learned boundaries." Then I turned my phone face down and went to the lounge. I ate soup alone beside a window while snow began tapping softly against the glass. Around me were strangers, a couple playing cards, a man reading a paperback, a family quietly sharing pie. Nobody demanded anything from me. Nobody assigned me a role. Nobody acted like my only value was what I could absorb. And in that silence, the memories came again, but differently this time. I saw myself at 22 missing New Year's plans because Mom needed help hosting. I saw myself at 25 using my bonus to cover Daniel's rent after he forgot his budget. I saw myself at 27 holding Mia as a baby while Charlotte napped upstairs and everyone praised Charlotte for surviving motherhood while nobody asked if I had eaten. I remembered a Thanksgiving when Dad handed me a carving knife before he even said hello, and a summer barbecue when Mom told guests I was basically the assistant manager of the family, like it was a compliment. I had smiled then. I had smiled so much my face had learned to lie before my mouth did. I had called those moments love because calling them exploitation would have forced me to act sooner. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. The sitter charged Charlotte a fortune. "Your mother missed the dinner. Daniel says you owe us an apology." I laughed once, quietly, into my soup. Not because it was funny, but because their emergency was finally not mine. I replied, I owe the children love. I owe myself respect. I owe the adults nothing tonight. Then I blocked Daniel for 24 hours, muted my parents, and left Charlotte unmuted only in case there was a real emergency with the kids. That was my compromise. Compassion without surrender. Later, Nora texted one last time. Mom is home. Kids settled. You're off duty. Those 3 words hit harder than I expected. You're off duty. I whispered them out loud in the hotel room like a prayer. You're off duty, Chloe. You're off duty. For the first time that night, I cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly into the clean white pillow of a room no one had assigned to me. And when I finished crying, nothing terrible happened. No one fell apart because I rested. No one stopped breathing because I chose myself. The world kept turning, and I finally understood that maybe it always would. The next morning was Christmas Eve, and for the first time in my adult life, I woke up without someone else's plan already sitting on my chest. I made coffee in the hotel room, opened the curtains, and watched the lake glitter under a thin silver skin of ice. Then I checked my phone. 38 missed calls, 12 voicemails. A paragraph from Mom that began with, I hope you're proud of yourself, and ended with, your father barely slept. A message from Dad saying, families help each other. They don't hire strangers. A message from Charlotte saying, the kids keep asking for you. Are you really going to punish them because you're mad at me? And finally, a message from Daniel from a new number because I had blocked him. You made Mom cry. Nice Christmas spirit. I did not answer immediately. Instead, I ordered breakfast, took a shower, and called the airline. There was a flight back to Portland late that afternoon with 1 seat left. Expensive, but available. I booked it. That was the second statement. The first had been leaving. The second was not returning. At 11, I called Mom. She answered on the first ring, breathless, like she had been waiting with the phone in her hand. Chloe, I'm flying home today, I said. No, she whispered. Then louder. No, you are not. It's Christmas. Exactly. And I'm not spending it being punished for refusing to be used. Dad came on the line. You're overreacting. Then explain it to me, I said. Explain why I was invited with love, but greeted with instructions. He said nothing, so I continued. Explain why everyone had tickets except me. Explain why Charlotte packed medicine, snacks, schedules, and bedtime rules before I arrived if this wasn't planned. Explain why Daniel called me the babysitter of the year if you saw me as family. Mom began crying. We didn't think you'd mind. That is the whole problem, I said. You didn't think of me at all. There was a small sound on the other end, and I realized Charlotte was there too. Her voice was rough. I'm sorry you felt hurt. I closed my eyes. That sentence. The apology that places the pain back in the injured person's lap. No. Try again. She went silent. I waited. For once, I did not rescue her from discomfort. Finally, she said, I'm sorry I planned for you to watch the kids without asking you. That was closer. And? I asked. She exhaled shakily. And I'm sorry I acted like your time mattered less because you don't have kids. My throat tightened, but I stayed firm. Thank you. I accept that apology, but I'm still leaving. Mom cried harder. But what about Christmas dinner? What about the gifts? What will we tell people? There it was again. Not, how do we repair this? But how do we explain the consequence? I said, tell them the truth. Tell them Chloe came home for Christmas and left when she realized she had been invited as unpaid childcare. Dad snapped, that makes us sound terrible. Then say it differently, I replied. But don't ask me to lie so you can feel better. Daniel yelled from somewhere in the room. She's loving this. She wants attention. I laughed softly. Daniel, attention would have been being included in the tour, dinner, photos, and plans. What I want now is distance. Mom begged me to at least come back for lunch. Charlotte said Mia had made me an ornament. Dad said he would drive to the hotel himself if I didn't tell him where I was. That old fear flickered, but it did not take over. Do not come here, I said. I will meet Charlotte in the hotel lobby for 10 minutes if she wants to give me the ornament from the kids. Alone. No speeches, no ambush. Charlotte agreed. Mom protested. Dad cursed under his breath. Daniel called me dramatic again. I ended the call anyway. 1 hour later, Charlotte walked into the lobby holding a paper bag and looking smaller than I had ever seen her. She handed it to me. Inside was a crooked ornament covered in glitter with Aunt Chloe, written in purple marker. My eyes burned. Charlotte whispered. Mia cried when she made it. I nodded. I love her. I love Evan too. That has never been the issue. Charlotte looked down. I know. Do you? I asked. She didn't answer, and that silence was the most honest thing she had given me all week. I did not go back to the lake house. That was the part my family could not understand. They thought an apology, even a better one, should reset the game. They thought my love for the children would override my self-respect. They thought Christmas had magical authority, as if a decorated tree could erase years of being used, dismissed, mocked, and summoned. But I had finally learned that forgiveness and access are not the same thing. I could forgive them someday without handing them the keys to my time, my labor, and my peace. Charlotte stood in the hotel lobby twisting her wedding ring while I held the children's ornament in both hands. So what happens now? She asked. Now you spend Christmas with your kids, I said. You explain to them that Aunt Chloe loves them, but adults have to ask before making plans for other people. You don't blame them. You don't blame me. You teach them better than what we were taught. Her face crumpled. Mom is going to make this impossible. Mom has been making things impossible for me for years, I said gently. Now it's your turn to decide whether you repeat it. She nodded, and for a second I saw my sister not as an enemy, but as another person who had learned to survive in our family by passing pressure downward. The difference was that I was done being the place where pressure landed. At the airport that afternoon, Mom sent one final voice message. I listened before boarding. She was crying, but quieter now. I don't know when we started assuming you would always just handle things. Maybe because you always did. That doesn't make it right. I'm sorry, Chloe. I don't know how to fix Christmas. I looked at the boarding line, at tired travelers holding gift bags and coffee cups, at strangers going somewhere they hoped would feel like home. Then I typed back. You don't fix Christmas by forcing me back into the same role. You fix it by changing what happens after Christmas. Start there. I turned off my phone before she replied. On the flight home, I held Mia's glitter ornament in my lap. Some of the glitter stuck to my coat, my hands, even my suitcase handle. It would probably follow me for weeks. For once, I didn't mind. It reminded me that love can be messy without being a trap. It reminded me that I could care deeply and still leave. When I landed in Portland, snow was falling in thin, soft lines outside the airport windows. I took a cab to my apartment, dropped my suitcase by the door, made tea, and hung the ornament on the little plant near my kitchen window because I had not bought a tree. Then I sat in the quiet and waited for regret to swallow me. It didn't. What came instead was grief. Yes, but also space. Beautiful, painful space, the kind where a new life could breathe. Over the next few weeks, things did not magically heal. Daniel stayed blocked longer than 24 hours because he sent one message through Dad calling me selfish. Dad tried to act like nothing happened, so I told him I would only talk when he was ready to discuss it honestly. Mom sent photos of Christmas dinner with one empty chair visible, probably hoping I would feel guilty. I felt sad, but I did not apologize for leaving. Charlotte surprised me in January by calling and asking, really asking, whether the kids could video chat with me sometime. She said, "Only if you want to, not because we need anything." That sentence was small, awkward, and late, but it was new. So I said yes, not because everything was fine, but because boundaries are not walls built from hatred. They are doors with locks, and you get to decide who earns a key. The lesson I carried from that Christmas was simple. Family should not be a place where your exhaustion is invisible because your usefulness is convenient. Love is not measured by how much you can sacrifice before you break. Real love asks, listens, respects, and changes. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is not a speech, it is no. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave before resentment turns you into someone you do not recognize. And sometimes the people who say you ruined Christmas are really angry because you stopped letting them ruin you. So tell me honestly, have you ever had to say no to family to protect your peace? What happened after you finally chose yourself?